Hey guys, your agent Tyler Wehrung here with Keller Williams, and today we're going to talk about the legal requirements of a bedroom and how that differs from the requirements of a regular room. We get questions about this all the time, especially when someone's getting ready to list a home they've done work to, or they're getting ready to take on a new project and they plan on adding additional rooms or space to their home. So let's dig into what makes up those and what the requirements are. All right, so it kind of goes without saying that adding additional rooms to a home typically increases the value and the likelihood that it's going to sell quickly. So we always get questions about, can we consider this a room or that a room, or we've tried to add a room to a basement. That's a big one that we'll dig into here in a minute, but you just want to make sure that you understand what the requirements are before you start a project or before you list a home, calling a room a bedroom when it really doesn't check the boxes. So also, a quick caveat, this is going to talk about the requirements in general. All locations and counties and different areas have very specific details on this, so always reach out to local code inspector or building inspector or your local real estate agents before you make a formal decision. But I'm going to cover things at a high level and kind of the national standard for the most part. All right, so the first requirement of a bedroom is that it's 7 feet by 9 feet, at least 7 feet by 9 feet. All right, there is a square footage minimum as well, but if you go by 7 by 9, you'll meet that. The reason the 7 foot is important is you can meet the square footage requirement, but without meeting the 7 foot width requirement. So people were using at one time this, long skinny hallways and say, look, I hit your square footage requirement. But so it has to be at least 7 feet wide in kind of any direction. So if you pull out a tape measure and kind of work a circle around the room, you'll make sure you hit that and you'll check those boxes in terms of minimum square footage and kind of the rough dimensions that it needs to be. Anything that exceeds that checks that box. The second requirement is that it has to be at least 7 foot tall in at least half of the room. Okay, so you can have less than half of the room have a bulkhead or something that sticks out that is lower than 7 feet, and you could put a bed underneath there or whatever, but at least half of the room has to be 7 foot or more height of the ceiling. So grab that tape measure again and pull it up from the floor and make sure more than half of the room hits that 7 foot minimum requirement. All right, so the third requirement is that a bedroom must have at least 2 forms of egress or 2 means of getting out of the room. So typically this is met by a window and a bedroom door. This comes up a lot when we talk to folks about finishing a basement and adding an additional room in that basement. There are very specific guidelines around window dimensions, how big they must be, how high they can be from the floor, and so on. So in general, if you're going to do a window in the basement, it has to be the lower sill has to be no higher than 44 inches off the ground, and it has to be at least 9 square feet. So typically 3 feet wide by 3 feet tall. And then there's also requirements on that outer sill, or that outer window well. So when you go out of the window, you have to have, there's a minimum amount of area that has to be there. And if that window well is more than 44 inches tall, you have to have permanent steps or rungs of a ladder attached to that. I'm going to put a link in the description below to a company that sells egress windows and window wells. I have no affiliate with them, but they have a really easy to use website and they sell these. And you can actually look up your area all the way down to your county to find out your county requirements on all these, and then they make the windows and wells custom to meet that. So we get this question a lot when folks are finishing basements, so we always point them to our link there, and so they can kind of dig in themselves. But again, I always like to recommend that you reach out to the local building inspector who's going to be signing off on this in the end. But keep in mind, 2 forms of egress. It's a window and a door. All right, and fourth, you must have some form of heating and cooling in the room. And the window typically counts as cooling. You can open that window up to cool things off. Obviously, AC counts as cooling, but you must have a form of heat as well, and there must be an air duct in the room blowing either hot or cold air into it. You can't just have a space heater or anything portable. It does have to be a permanent fixture in place that will heat and cool that room if you're not using the window. All right, so those are the main points, and then a couple other caveats are that typically in older homes we see, they used to attach a room to another room, so you have to go through one bedroom to get to the next bedroom door. That's typically a gray area. Most folks frown upon calling that second room a bedroom if you can't get to it from some common area, or you have to go through a bathroom to get to that room. So something you want to ask your agent about if you're thinking about listing that as a bedroom. And then also a big misconception about bedrooms is that they have to have a closet. Now, this is typically something that's expected nowadays, that all bedrooms have a closet, but it's not a national requirement. Again, check with your local records before you make a decision on not including one, but in most places and the national code does not require a closet to be in a room to be considered a bedroom. All right, so I hope that answers your general questions on kind of what has to be in place for a room to be considered a bedroom. But I hope you got the emphasis on always check with a professional, whether that be a local code inspector, a local building inspector, or a local real estate agent. If you have any questions in the Butler County, Ohio area, please give me a call. I'm happy to talk to you about your specific room and walk you through kind of what the requirements look like here in Ohio. If this was helpful at all, I'd appreciate a like, subscribe, or share for anyone else that might be considering this or getting ready to take on a finished basement and including a room down there. Make sure they know what the requirements are. But as always, I'm Tyler Wehrung with Keller Williams, and we'll catch you next time.